You're listening to the Impact Driver Podcast, a production of the Climbing Business Journal, where we explore the ideas, people, and pressures shaping the route setting industry. I'm your host, Holly Chen. I am a route setter, journalist, and contributing writer at the CBJ. Today's episode is brought to you by Rooney, Trango, Rock Gym Pro, Flash, and Onsite. Hey folks, it's Holly here. We are doing something new this year. The conversations you love are still here, but we are introducing a new way to share them. This season, the Impact Driver podcast steps into video. I've always wanted to share the human moments that don't always make it onto audio. Facial expressions, our pets wandering into frame, and when we awkwardly mime climbing movement in front of the camera. So if you're listening from wherever you get your podcast, find a chance to bop on over to YouTube for the full experience. Welcome back to another year of the Impact Driver podcast. Same conversations, just now on camera. But before we begin, a word from our sponsors who make the Impact Driver podcast possible. Check out our show notes for discount offers. This episode is brought to you by Rooney. Out of Norway, Rooney makes chalk and apparel for climbers, inspired by YouTuber Magnus Midtmo. Learn more at rooney.com. Hey Sierra, where are you calling from today?
Hi Holly, I'm calling from Orangeville, Utah.
Awesome. Can you give me and the audience a little bit of a kind of brief who, what, when, where, why of your climbing and setting career path leading up to where you currently are?
Yeah, totally. So right now I would consider myself a contract route setter. So I do mostly freelance and travel around because I'm also a grad student. I'm a third year PhD student in North Carolina in a wildlife biology program. So I will do boulder days at the gym called Triangle Rock Club out in North Carolina when I'm in town. And then when I'm traveling and back out west, I contract and set at gyms while I move around. I've been setting for maybe 7 years now, I think 7 years, and then climbing for about 10. So, yeah.
Awesome. Can you tell me, describe your perfect setting day for me? What does that look like?
Both start with a really good cup of coffee and really good cup of coffee. Commercial day, it's going to be easy. It's like the vert wall, we've got a ton of macros to play with. It's just everybody's in a good mood. It's like a Wednesday. It's not a Friday when everybody's wrecked. So commercial day, probably that. And then comp day, probably second day. You've put the finals boulders up. You also have that cup of coffee in your hand. Everybody's a little tired, but still excited and hopeful for the rest of the week. And then you're kind of cruising around, talking about boulders, and you have a game plan, and you can kind of just throw yourself into it right away, and you already have the ideas cooking from yesterday. So those are usually my two kind of favorite setting days.
I love that your two favorite setting days are always beginning week and midweek, because no setter ever likes this Thursday and a Friday when your skin is raw. No.
Yeah, for sure. You're grumpier, your body's tired. Hopefully one of you is taking a rest day so you can be more helpful the next day. But yeah, it's usually midweek and beginning of the week that are much better.
Yeah, I bet 80% of setters or more would say that. I also want to ask if you have a route setting hot take.
Ooh, I feel like I do have a couple of those. Let me think about my level of controversy that I want to share.
I see the headlines now. Cancel.
Yeah, right? Canceled. Oh my God. Dramatic woman said something on the internet. Let's see. I would say maybe my hot take right now. I think my hot take right now that is maybe more towards setters than it is towards rock climbers, or at least the membership base that we're seeing, is that I do actually agree that we should be setting comp boulders in our commercial gyms. I think there is a little bit of this frustration of, all of the boulders are comp boulders. I don't get to practice rock climbing. I don't get to train in the way that I like to train. But I think it's interesting that comp climbing can make you a better rock climber overall. It's very rare that rock climbing is going to make you a better comp climber. And I think having a few boulders that actually kind of challenge your coordination and the way that you move through different movements is great for everybody. And I think I do support gyms adding comp boulders to their walls, to their like setting schedule, and especially the ones that are also manageable, like V2, V3, like ones that are approachable. I think is really helpful. And yeah, so that's
It's
my
not
hot
quite
take.
as spicy of a hot take as I was kind of
No,
expecting. Not spicy
that
at
one's
all.
easy. Yeah, that one. I feel like I run into a lot of members. At least, I mean, at every gym, right? I
Hmm.
have friends across the country. They're all going to different gyms, and like, I think what I hear a lot is, oh, I'm just tired of all the comp climbs. Oh, it's such an
Hmm.
Instagram thing. We just like we're seeing it all over Instagram, and now it's up on the at the gyms, and not really into it. Like I'm not good at it, and I think the hot take is like start practicing stuff you're not good at, and I think it will not only obviously improve your comp climbing abilities, but improve your rock climbing as well. So I try to encourage my friends to try the comp boulders and practice.
I'm in the same boat. I think like especially in that like moderate grade range, like comp
Hmm.
boulders are one really fun to
Hmm.
do, and two like body awareness, spatial awareness, like
Hmm.
skills like jumping, catching, like
Yeah.
contact strength. That all comes in handy when it comes to these comp boulders, and then they obviously also come in handy when it comes to regular rock climbs. So love
Yeah,
that.
totally. And
Yeah.
it's good for the route setters to be able to practice and, be able to kind of explore their creative sides more with comp boulders. And
Hmm.
so I'm definitely a proponent for route setting teams to be introducing that to gyms more, even if they get a little bit of pushback from their member base. I
That's
think it's
true.
good for everybody.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Sierra, it's been about 2 years since you
Hmm.
were last on the podcast. You're actually my first return guest. You were my first guest. All the way back then, I was recording in like my kitchen. I didn't have
Yeah.
dogs at the time. I didn't need to
Uh-huh.
worry about barking. But I'd love to do a little bit of a recap of the
Hmm.
Sierra then and the Sierra now. Can you tell me a little bit
Totally.
about what you were doing back then, like what gym you were at, what position, and what about what you're doing now?
Yeah, man. A couple of years ago, I think I was still in Fort Collins. I was pursuing grad school options, trying to understand where I fell with my route setting career, if I wanted to be fully commercial. I think I was just getting my L1 with you, actually.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and was
Hmm.
just being like, oh, I really like the comp setting environment and this
Hmm.
experience because I hadn't had a lot of it in Montana.
Hmm.
Um, and now I think there's just mostly been a lot of like groundingness and all of those things.
Hmm.
So it was like looking for grad programs. Now I'm in my PhD. It was kind of moving around setting, trying to find my place in it. And now I feel much more comfortable in my role and in my skills and my confidence um and my comp setting abilities and my commercial contracting abilities. So I think most of those years have just been spent trying to figure out what I love the most about these things and then getting it to work for my lifestyle and being able to do it enough where I enjoy it, but not where it's taking over my whole life and I lose out on the other things that I love, like wildlife conservation or things like that. So,
Man, I feel like you and I kind of went through the formative years of like the
hmm,
growing pains of route setting together because
we
I'm so
did.
glad to hear that for you because I feel kind of in the same boat. Like I was
Yeah.
setting full time in a commercial facility then.
Yeah.
We went to get out a one. I still remember that drive. We were talking about like
Yeah.
where the comp world was heading. Did we like it? Did we not like it? And then now we
Hmm.
both are kind of more settled in this
Yeah.
industry and this community. I love to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what are some of the biggest changes, mainly in like maybe philosophical outlooks and approaches? What are some of the biggest changes that have changed in the last 2 years for you? Is there something like you strongly believed in back then that you don't anymore, or vice versa?
Yeah. Maybe I think for my own personal route setting journey, it's been finding crews that I work really well on and
Mm-hmm.
really feel supported by. I think it's it's a hard industry to get into. It can be a really
Mm-hmm.
critical industry at times. It can be a very big boys club at times, and
Mm-hmm.
I never totally felt like I had my place or like I was
Yeah.
confident enough in it. And I think what's changed for me is is noticing that and noticing where I feel that in certain environments and avoiding those crews, avoiding those environments and finding the groups of people and the groups of route setters that I adore and that are supportive and we communicate on the same wavelength and we know how to collaborate in the same ways. And so building those relationships has also built my confidence as a route setter, and I think that's been a really big change. um, and then finding where I have like, the confidence to have your own opinions about these things. I think there's so much gossip and route setting. There's so many hot takes. You can
Uh-huh.
go a thousand ways with it. There's a lot happening and a lot changing, and just finding my own path and what I see for the future of route setting and what I see for the future of route setting for women and people of anybody that's not a man, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe one of my hotter takes in these past 2 years is I think some gyms are on a really great growth path for
Uh-huh.
inclusivity, diversity, good route setting education, really supporting minorities. And also, there's a lot of gyms that I've been surprised by that are not supporting that
Mm-hmm.
or do this facade of support while really not having the actions behind it. And I think I was a little bit more optimistic a couple of years ago, or a little bit more like rose-colored glasses of like we're all working towards the same goal. And now I'm like, oh, okay, I need to like kind of fight a little harder for what I believe in. That's important to me in the route setting career for, bringing diverse people into route setting and also just other people to help change the game a little bit
Mm-hmm.
rather than who's currently making the rules. Um, Yeah. So some things have been maybe like a bit of a disappointment and at least been inspiring for trying to put a foot forward in route setting education and bringing more women into the field and more queer people into the field and more black and brown people of color into the field. Um, and yeah, having a stronger idea of what's going on, what my opinions are about it, and how to move forward and try to like, help with change. So.
This episode was brought to you by Trango. For decades, Trango has made gear for every kind of climbing, including sport, trad, bouldering, alpine, ice, and mountaineering. Learn more at trango.com. Something you said that really caught my attention, which was you said you learn how to find the crews that you work best with, right? Like, the crews that really support the growth of route setting, not just as a craft, but as like an industry of getting more perspectives and diversity into the field. That ability to find those crews got to be an instinct. Like, I did not feel like I had the instinct when I talked to you 2 years ago. I
Mm-hmm.
also feel like back then I was maybe same deal, rose-colored glasses, going like
Mm-hmm.
everyone is happy, no one is injured,
We're all being
and
supported. Everybody wants us
exactly.
here. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm wondering when you develop that instinct of being able to tell what is tokenism and what is real support. And because it's something that I feel like I wish I had a lot sooner and earlier in the industry. But obviously, developing that instinct is a skill just as much as like learning how to set comp boulders or a progressive comp route or,
Hmm.
the perfect V2 for the audience, right? Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. I think, it's so interesting is like I think we all have the instinct because
Mm-hmm.
it shows up in our lives everywhere. It's not just route setting, right? I mean, this
Yeah.
is friendships, relationships, this is other career paths of being like, do I instinctually feel safe in this relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do I instinctually feel heard, respected? Are those things happening? So we already have, I think, a lot of those natural abilities. It's just the
Yeah.
confidence to listen to them and the
Mm-hmm.
confidence to actually, I think for me was like, oh, I'm not the only one that feels this way, so it must be real, right? Okay, so if, my boss talks to me in this way, and I've already talked to female route setters all over the country who also have felt this way, maybe I'm not alone. Maybe that instinct was right, and I just needed a little bit of the backup and support
Hmm.
from women in my life to uh, acknowledge and validate the weird feelings that I was feeling in certain groups or in certain crews. Um, and then I think also the luck of, especially with contracting, I get to meet so many different people and experience so many different route setting crews and how they do things all so differently and communicate differently to be able to find the ones that work. And then finally, after I think many lived experiences of, oh yeah, this didn't work last time, and now I'm reflecting, oh, this is still not working, so maybe this pattern of communication just doesn't fit for me. Or yeah, maybe I was just brought on because I'm a small femme, and that's why I keep seeing this mismatch of action and what they say they're promising. And um, yeah, and so the crews that show the action of, hiring a diverse crew, hiring women onto their crew, and knowing how to be respectful, communicate, support, all of those actionable items have to be hand in hand. And so you can have your instincts of, okay, maybe this is tokenism, maybe I'm just here because of the way I look. Oh, I feel really good in this space. If I'm not
Hmm.
feeling really good in that space, your instincts are already probably kicking in, and it's just the confidence to essentially believe what you're feeling.
That is a great point. I also love how you brought up finding other women in community because you know that feeling where you hear something, you're like, oh, I feel weird, but is that normal? Am I
Hmm.
overthinking this? Am I overreacting? Or if
Maybe
I'm
it's
just like,
me.
yeah, I'm just too sensitive. And you
Uh-huh.
talk to other women and other queer folks and other non binary folk, and you're like, oh, we all feel this way. This is not normal. This should not be
Hmm.
normal. And that's where really the community comes in. And like this last 2 years, I've been able to work with so many women that not just only validated my feelings, but also
Hmm.
gave me the confidence to go, okay, that was not normal and I should not feel this way in a workplace. I'm going to do something to change it, or I'm
Yep.
going to bring it to the attention of the right people. So,
Right.
love those points. Yeah. I'm
Absolutely.
also wondering in like the last 2 years, then and now, how have your relationship with route setting and work changed? Are you feeling more ambitious, less ambitious? Are you feeling more protective of your time or more selective of your crews, especially now that you're a contract setter and you can kind of choose to bop around?
Yeah. I think I feel like I see my path, and now after some time I know this path is possible, I guess. I wasn't really
Mm-hmm.
totally sure how the contracting thing would work. I'm going into an entirely different world. Like in forestry and wildlife conservation and all these things, like would I be able to still route set? And I think the answer to my question now that I'm back in academia and working on those things is, oh, I love route setting, especially on good crews, especially with lovely people. Oh, it is so much fun. I want to do it for the
Mm-hmm.
rest of my life. Um, and so just having that knowledge after enough time, being like, okay, so then how do I want to make this work for me? Like, okay, contracting makes a lot of sense, you know, full-time job and, academia and research, these kind of things, contract out. Oh, go for a comp for a week. Oh, great. There's some commercial setting days with a really good buddy in Salt Lake. Let's go there. Um, and so finding the path that's just like fits for both of the passions, I think, um, I finally found it, I guess. And like, I know that it's possible, and talking to other people who have made it possible has been helpful. And also just talking to people's experiences about, full time in commercial, full time in competition, being directors, being teachers, all those things. I think talking to other people about what they love about what they do in route setting and what they don't like and how sustainable it is has been really informative of what path feels right for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think in these couple of years, what I've done is prioritize my setting, knowing that it is important to me and that I do want to grow it as a skill, keep learning, keep developing, and keep pursuing certifications if I can, and really practicing. Even comp climbing, talking about oh, we do need comp climbing in commercial gyms now. It's like, oh yeah, I need to be practicing that. And I love that about route setting is like, if you're not doing it, you probably don't know how to do it. So you just have to practice. Everybody has to practice. Um, and seeing those like skills unfold from a lot of like time and effort being put into it feels so good and so rewarding. Um, so yeah, I think I've just prioritized it in a way to make it sustainable, like as long as I can in my career, and knowing that's possible from talking to other people.
Hmm. I love that you bring up practicing as well, because like
Hmm.
practice is time. I didn't grow up a comp kid. I don't know. I didn't come
Mm-mm.
into the sport instinctively knowing how to,
We we
skip
started
across
climbing in the
volumes.
same
Yeah.
gym. Yeah,
Yeah, we
Pacific
started
Edge.
climbing in the same gym. Yeah, and
Pacific Edge was
package
not
was
known. Yeah,
no.
right.
Yeah, they served rock climbers extremely well. They served Yosemite
Oh,
climbers extremely well. But
absolutely.
for the comp kid, the setter who wants to practice the
Mm-mm.
comp movement, not quite.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Shout out
And
to
that was
Pacific Edge
fine.
though.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Um, I'm also curious, looking ahead, we've been looking back for the last couple of like
Mhm.
minutes. Looking ahead, what do you want your next 2 years of route setting to look like? Maybe we'll do another recap episode in another 2 years.
Yeah, see what happens.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think in terms of like very step-by-step plans, definitely seeing, so I have my L2 now. We talked when I was getting my L1. I have the L2 now. That was definitely a very big learning experience in a lot of ways, and I do really want to pursue my L3. Obviously, the rules have changed and there's a lot of talk about that, but I am essentially excited to keep practicing my competition skills as a competition climber and then a competition route setter so that I can be I don't know, yeah, just like gaining this whole other knowledge of movement in a way that's so different from commercial setting. I think that's something that I really want to improve upon, and I've been enjoying practicing, and it feels incredibly artistic for me in a way that I can only get sometimes out of commercial setting. It feels like an artistic pursuit in a way that I really enjoy, kind of creating these big visuals on the wall. Um, so that's what I would like to see is more progression in my comp climbing and in my comp route setting. Maybe that's getting the L3 certification, but most importantly is just doing more competitions. And then hopefully in 2 years I'll have graduated the PhD, hopefully have a job. We'll see. But keep contracting, and something I'm really excited about that I'm slowly working on with a few people is route setting education and offering clinics, offering the primary foundation building blocks for women and people that are not men, queer people, black and brown people, whoever wants to get involved in this, a space to learn without the pressure of being taught by people that might not be safe people to learn from. And so I'm really excited about route setting education and kind of trying to create a foundation of knowledge to give to other people. Yeah. So if I'm not maybe the one on national teams, supporting other people who could be really good fits, and teaching them how to get involved and how to get started.
This episode was brought to you by Rock Gym Pro. Since 2008, Rock Gym Pro gym management software has powered climbing facilities across the globe. Learn more at rockgympro.com. Continuing off of that, you mentioned, the rules changing in the last 2 years, right? That we've known each other and that we've been kind of diving into comp setting. And CBJ and these interviews have also evolved a lot in the last 2 years. Like I started doing this as a written interview series, and then it's audio. And now, you were my first audio guest, and now you're my first video guest as well. I feel the industry has changed a lot in the last 2 years, some for better, some for worse. Looking at it now, what feels meaningfully different between now and when you first started?
Hmm.
Hard question?
This is a complicated question.
Yeah.
Yes, this is a complicated question with a lot of heat involved, I think, right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, what I I've been noticing, and I can't tell because maybe this has always been here, and I'm just
Mm-hmm.
finally seeing it. I'm finally like walking in what I thought was a door into the space and seeing many more doors in front of me and a lot of walls. I think maybe that's the thing I've been so surprised by, is a little bit of resistance and growing and like finding ways to grow as a route setter, at least in USAC. I I love the idea of route setter education. I love the idea of these certifications and having these like step-by-step process to work through this. I'm very academic, I'm very logical. You
Mm-hmm.
know, a one, two, three makes sense to me. Um, but I do feel like some of the newest rules I am noticing from my personal experiences with women in the industry is a lot of resistance of people wanting to continue as route setters and continue as competition route setters. And that has been really hard to see. I feel like USAC had a really great idea as, you know, we want competent, skilled route setters who know how to work on teams, who can um, put these skills to work and make these comps incredible, and there are. And I think the system that's like starting to be in place for that is maybe a direction I was surprised they took it to get to
Mm-hmm.
that result, because I think it ends up being a little, I think the language is a little exclusive. I think the people that feel safe and comfortable in that environment are really specific groups of people, and we're missing out on a lot of new ideas and new perspectives because other people aren't feeling very safe to continue or
Mm-hmm.
confident enough to continue. And you know, talking about confidence in this interview already is, it's huge, and it takes practice, and it takes
Mm-hmm.
showing up in these environments. And I think a lot of people are not even wanting to show up anymore. They don't have the confidence to show up because, just speaking as personal experience of being raised as a woman, um, I like second guess things a lot. There's a lot of imposter syndrome. And so I'm naturally inclined to not feel like I belong in a space. So if there are rules and limitations set up for me to already to run into a wall, I'm not going to go past the wall. I'm going to probably back up because I'm used to backing up. So that's what I worry about with some of these changes and some of the language that's been used recently, is that people are going to see this as a wall rather than a door and turn around. Um, yeah.
Do you think that changing the language of it, making it a little bit more inclusive, maybe making it my thoughts are like less
Hmm.
elitist.
Hmm.
Every route setter at every level talk about soft skills, right? The soft skills
Hmm.
of route setting, the communication, the
Hmm.
teamwork, the ability to read team dynamics. But
Hmm.
yet none of that is really mentioned within the USAC
Yeah.
route setting guidelines.
Yeah.
They're a little bit more focused on the not necessarily hard skills of like, can I put a hold on the wall, but more like hard numbers are being thrown around quite a bit. Do you think that changing this language and making these guidelines a bit more flexible is going to help people see the door instead of the wall?
I think it doesn't even have to be focused on the language. I think it's the foundation of where the language is coming from. I think it's the
Mm-hmm.
foundation of, okay, what's the actual goal? Why are we saying this? What are we trying to get out of saying this? Why are we trying to get that? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we want exceptional route setters on these national crews. Fantastic. That makes sense.
Absolutely. Yes.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are feeling like they don't want to pursue this. A lot of people who have the skills to do this can work really well on a national crew, who are available and ready, do not feel comfortable entering this space anymore. Do not feel like this is made for them. Do not feel like they even have the skills, even if they do, to try and pursue it. So if we have this mismatch, maybe it's a language thing, maybe it's a foundational thing. Maybe we need to change the way we're thinking about what these crews need to look like and how this work needs to go. And like you said, soft skills, there's a lot of focus on the physical limitations, the physical requirements of being a route setter. It makes sense. It's a hard job. It's manual labor. You need to be able to do moves. And and something that I think I've run into a lot in the past couple of years is there's absolutely no focus on the soft skills, and the soft skills are what's making and breaking these routes. It's what's making and breaking these crews. It's what's making and breaking route setters, is the ability to collaborate, work on a team, work on boulders together, forerun together, and communicate in a way that feels supportive and confidence inspiring, rather than that you are drained and shut down at the end of the week. And there's no outlet to learn that. And, I've talked about that with certain people in USAC, and there's no outlet to really teach it in USAC, which I get. They've got a lot of other things to teach. But then we look at gyms. Who's teaching it at gyms? A lot of crews aren't learning it at gyms. A lot of these head route setters aren't talking about these soft skills. There's like not enough check-ins. And so when it comes back to route setter education, that's also something I'm interested in, is talking about, okay, how do you talk? How do you talk on a team? What does that actually look like? And how do we like personally reflect on the ways that we show up, and the ways that our egos show up on these crews, and how that might be impacting the crew? Because you can be on you're setting for a week on this comp, right? And you've got 5 people who can do all the moves, who should have been pro athletes but aren't, and they can't talk to each other about the boulders, or they're fighting, or they're trying to fight for their move rather than what's best for the boulder, best for the round, best for the competitor. And you're getting 5 people walking away pretty drained, a comp that I think is limited because there was only so much communication involved, so much collaboration involved. Or you get a comp where everybody has different skills, everybody has physical weaknesses, physical strengths, but there's an entire team that know how to collaborate and work together, that know how to talk, that know how to support the inspiration and also guide through a new idea. And most of the time, I'm seeing those competitions work out better for the route setters. The competitors have a better time because the boulders are more unique. There's, different ideas on the wall. And then that supports those route setters continuing the sport, continuing the career field, and supporting others, and knowing how to do that, and having the soft skills to educate and continue to bring people through the route setting career versus the physicality of it.
I love that the things that you said about, not just USAC being kind of the people we look to for education, but it's also in each individual gym, in each individual region, right?
Totally.
Route setting is a weird job in the sense that you need experience to get a job, but you need a job to get experience. So it can kind of get into this weird feedback loop where head setters and senior setters of each team is responsible for educating the newer green setters who are coming into the field, and whatever knowledge they pass on is the knowledge that this route setter has. And not a lot of people don't have the opportunity to travel like you and I do, and if they were isolated in one gym, then they get isolated within one idea. And if the head setter is saying, I need you to climb V12 or you can't be a route setter, then they internalize that idea, and it might take years to unlearn that. Or and it doesn't even have to be that big, right? Like I used to have this weird idea, and I've mentioned this before in the podcast, where you can't have underclings if it's a 5'10". For some reason, it was just ingrained in my head. It was taught to me some time ago, and I remember saying that, like, oh, we should take out that undercling. This is 5'10". And everyone on the crew just go like,
huh?
They were like, but it's well supported. It's got big feet.
Right.
It's a perfect triangle. I'm like, no.
Right. All of those things, the foundational things that we think are being taught everywhere that aren't. And the same with the soft skills, the foundational things that we think are being taught everywhere that aren't.
Exactly. Yeah. You bring up great points. I'm also wondering, in the last 2 years, what are some, not to keep this conversation grim, but what are some of the new concerns that popped up in the last 2 years that might have not been present either on you or my minds, or even just on the mainstream minds? Mainstream minds, is that a thing? The collective minds of the route setting industry. This episode was brought to you by Flashed, designing landing surfaces for both climbing gyms and boulderers. Flash is the official padding partner of USA Climbing. Learn more at flashed.com.
Hmm. I don't know if it, I think the thing that comes to mind is not necessarily like, oh, this is a new problem that I wasn't aware of, or it just has been developing the past 2 years. I think the thing that I've been noticing the most, that I've been the most surprised by, is some really, how do I say this? I think the thing that I have been surprised by the most is maybe some like really deep issues in the foundation with route setting on all the things we've already talked about: diversity, inclusion, making women feel safe in this career path. I think a couple years ago I was like, oh yeah, we're all on the same trajectory and we all know what those steps kind of look like, or there's ways to learn those steps. And then I'm traveling around and like, there aren't, where are these safe spaces? Why are there still crews without women? Why are people getting away hiring crews for competitions, for full commercial gyms that only have white men on their crews, that don't have any female route setters? And then I get a lot of feedback of like, oh, you're right. I would love to hire a female setter. They're just not available. I'm like, are they not available? Because I'm like surrounded by them all the time. I have a huge network. Everybody's great. Everybody's so skilled. Why are you not offering a space where they really want to work? So I think that's been the biggest shock of like, all these years, and I'm still seeing crews without women. I'm still seeing this idea that an entire team has to be a bunch of L4 men. That we have incredible route setters, incredible female route setters that are available to hire that are not being hired. Um, so I think that has been incredibly surprising of how much work we still have to do just on those basics, not even diving into the trans policies that have been happening at USAC that I'm so surprised by, or maybe not surprised, but was hopeful for. Um, and yeah, just that inclusion thing, I've been pretty shocked. And I think a lot of it comes down to just not a lot of head route setters not being able to reflect on their limitations when it comes to those soft skills, and those limitations of like, it's one thing to hire a woman. Is she in a safe environment to route set there? Or is this queer person in a safe environment to route set here? um, so like we've talked about tokenism, bringing people in because you're trying to make a diverse crew. um, but it's just tokenism because it's not actually safe to work there, and we're not listening to them. We don't know how to communicate with other people that don't look like us and don't talk like us. Um, yeah, is there an environment that leads to sarcasm and criticism, or is there an environment that leads to like productive conversations, nonviolent communication, supportive collaboration? And I think a lot of that is just reflecting as a person, reflecting on your own limitations of your communication abilities and where you might be seeing your own biases. Why is my crew only men? Oh, well, I think there can be a lot of excuses, but like, let's just take a look inward. And it's the same for white people and hiring people of color. Like, let's just take a moment. Am I avoiding this because I'm uncomfortable? Do I want to not make some sort of mistake? And I think that's been disappointing to see that not happening more, not like this effort coming forward. And this effort of like, the hashtag ally thing, like, I see a lot of great men talking about these issues, but not talking about these issues to the people in charge at USAC, to their head route setter, to their own teams. If you know these things are happening and you're looking around at an all male crew and you're like, what's going on here? But I'm going to keep my mouth shut because I want this job. And that's the tricky part with route setting. It's word of mouth, it's references, it's who people like. It can be nervous putting yourself out there, but you are the one that has to do it. We're already back here trying so hard and we need a little help. And it's the same for white women bringing people of color. We see these things happening and we need to be able to take a risk for the collective and the collective community. And I think people are really not as willing to do that as I think I once thought they were a couple of years ago.
No, I hear you absolutely. And one thing that you said that I wanted to dive in a little bit deeper on is the power that white cis
Hmm.
men currently hold, and
Hmm.
how you use that power and how you recognize that power. The thing, you said, oh, a lot of them want female, queer, non-binary, gender marginalized setters, but they say, oh, no one applied. I don't know. No one applied.
Hmm.
And to that, I would say, try harder.
Uh-huh.
And it might sound a little harsh, but
Hmm.
the try harder portion really just means to seek them out. Do you
Right.
see that really excited gal who is in the gym every weeknight trying projects, bouldering, working on the board? Ask if they have interest. Maybe they do.
Hmm.
Maybe they've always wanted to route set but didn't know how to get into it because obviously this is a profession where there's no trade school, there's no degree that you can get. So it's without the right people and the right knowledge, it can be
Right.
really hard to get in. If you notice that, oh, I'm not keeping a lot of the women that I hire, maybe talk to some of
Hmm.
them. Maybe ask, like, what can I be doing more to make this a welcoming space? Maybe look at the coworkers around you. Who of these coworkers is potentially creating a space that's unsafe for women? Maybe they need to, look inward, like you said, or have a more serious conversation with the higher ups. It's these things that really can be done on a daily basis. And if you are the head setter, you're the boss. This is your job, your responsibility,
Hmm.
to do these things and bring more people into the fold. Yeah, you bring up so many good points about it. That
Yeah.
classic, not enough women apply. I no longer see that as a valid excuse because there
Right.
are women out there who are excited.
Yeah.
And yeah, there was a time when I went, oh, that sounds about right. No women applied.
Like, oh,
And
that's crazy. Yeah, and I think
yeah.
it's also like, right, we talked about the patriarchy and white supremacy.
Hmm.
These things also hurt men, right? So if you have an
They
all-male
do.
crew, and let's take the first step of like, when's the last time you checked in individually with each crew member and being like, are you feeling supported? Are you learning what you want to learn? Are there things that you want to learn that you haven't been taught yet? Are am I communicating in a way that actually is clicking? How do you like to learn? What kind of communication style do you have? How can I support you more? Like, have you asked those conversations to the men on your crew? And 9 times out of 10, they have things that are bugging them. They also have ways that they would probably like to be communicated with better. Maybe they haven't had the space to actually talk about that yet. So just starting with the people already on your crew, are they feeling supported? Yeah, but are there buts? Are there ways that you can improve? And then that next round of hiring and you've implemented those changes, maybe it goes a little better. Maybe more people apply, or maybe people stick around for longer. And I think I get nervous when people hire women, and then this, like we said, the space is not safe. They don't actually have the skills to keep women on their crew for a long time. Um, and it's and I also think there's a a huge thing to learn from that is because we're tough. We deal with misogyny every day. If it's so bad that we can't do the things we love anymore, it's really bad, and it's enough that the men are also probably experiencing harm from whatever is going on as well. So checking in with the crew, asking those questions, and then reading a book. Like, instead of going to the women close in your life and asking for the emotional labor of, like, you know what's wrong with me? How do I do this? Uh, Tell me what I should do. Maybe like start with women who have written books on this, and you can pay them money and buy a
Buy
book,
their
and
books.
then be like, oh shit, I am not doing this. Oh, I haven't like oh crap, I didn't even think about like this style of communication or this level of sarcasm might not make people feel very comfortable. And just like making those small changes and then seeing if your retention rate increases, and it's also word of mouth as well. Like, we talk, and if there are gyms hiring, I know about it and I send it to friends. And if I know that gym is unsafe, it's either like, if I know, I'm not sending it to girlfriends. And if I don't know about it and I send it to a girlfriend, they say, "Oh, I would never apply there. Oh, I would never work there. I've heard, I've heard from other female route setters it's really unsafe." So it's also the word of mouth. It's also like it's your crew, it's your member base, it's how you show up every day at the gym that also matters and who is coming to the table to be hired. So.
This episode was brought to you by Onsite. Out of Montreal, Onsite builds climbing walls for schools, rec centers, private homes, and full commercial climbing gyms. Learn more at onsite.com. Yeah, you bringing up reading books, that's something that, honestly, I should have thought of that because when I said, ask your female route setters, you're right. I am putting the emotional labor on them. I'm saying, oh no, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Please give me the handbook.
Yeah, for
Give
sure.
me the handbook, because I don't have it and I expect you to give it to me. That's a brilliant point to make, is that there are educational things that you can do to try to get yourself off of the ground floor before you reach out to more people. Emotional labor is still labor. I mean, the bulk of the emotional labor in the society falls on women. It's not just the child rearing or the emotional management of partners, but it is emotional management in the workplace as well. Like,
Yeah.
the stereotype of, oh, women and femme presenting folks are more, nurturing. Like, it's in our nature to be nurturing. Like, I'm sorry, have you talked to me on a bad day? Do I sound nurturing to you, Sierra? The amount of times I've screamed at a male coworker, am I nurturing? Not always. Like, the stereotypes. The stereotypes
Mhm.
is, it's just, it puts the emotional labor on women, and like you said, with like toxic masculinity is not
Mhm.
just hurting women, it's also hurting men because it doesn't allow them the space to say, hey, my pulley has been tweaked for 3 weeks, it's not healing, I
Yeah,
can't forerun, you can't put me on this V10 right now because it's going to
right.
make it worse. It's, oh, I am manly and I need to
Mhm.
tough my way through this, and then
Yeah,
eventually my finger will fall off, I guess.
right. Yeah, I don't know what
Yeah.
happens when you push it. Yeah.
No, I don't. And I don't want to find out. And I
Right.
don't think anyone else should find out either.
Mhm.
Um, so
Yeah,
it seems like this actually leads into one of the questions I had for you, which is, this is potentially one of the issues that we are still not addressing in the setting world, or for those who are addressing it, there is 5 others who are not. 2 years ago, when I asked you about the progress in the in the industry, you said that there is progress, but it's not quite moving as fast as you would like. I'm imagining that you still kind of feel that way right now.
totally. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think it's not as moving as fast as I like. I see really great gains in
Mm-hmm.
from small communities to even bigger things like the trans policy at USAC before everything happened with the administration was like one of the most inclusive I
Mm-hmm.
think written ever, and that was going to be amazing. And so I was seeing these like real efforts, and I was like from big to small, and then I was seeing from big to small some really big harm happening. So I think I still feel the same way, and like, I think it's such a big thing to battle, but I think a lot of it is education. I think that's what a lot of people come back to is talking and education. So, and there aren't a ton of resources specifically for route setting education, for route setting communication, for creating an inclusive and safe environment and what that actually looks like and feels like. So I think there is a huge opening for that, for people to really come in and I don't know, create supportive environments, create these better environments. Yeah, I see wins and I see losses. And I like to optimistically think that everybody is kind-hearted for the most part, maybe with some accidental biases that obviously happen as being a person, and that those can be rewired and taught out and grown, and that's what I hope. And I know that will come. I know a lot of incredible change will come from women and other minorities, and um, I'm really excited to see how route setting changes over the years when more women join, more queer people, more trans people, more people of color. Like, oh my God, the like sky is the limit for how much route setting can change, how much climbing can look so different. And I mean, we've just seen so many incredible ideas, clear holds to all these different moves, from very specific people. And I can't wait for more people to get involved to see what else we come up with. It's going to be great. We just got to get them through the door, and not hit all the walls. So, yeah.
I love that. I think I'm in the same boat. I'm sharing your optimism, and honestly, talking to you has kind of helped, elevate that optimism a
Hmm.
little bit more, especially as we're kind of ending 2025 in
Yeah.
possibly a scary environment, both politically and socially. I think I want to take that optimism into 2026 and just
Hmm.
hope that things will shape out better, and I surround
Yeah.
myself with good people. That includes you.
Hmm.
And I think that when I do surround myself with good people, good men and good women, it raises my hopes. It makes me
Hmm.
believe that there are more people like this out there, and they
Hmm.
are all trying to, create that change in their community so that it ripples outward, and
Yeah.
hopefully that will create the big change that we want.
Yeah.
You mentioned, these cool ideas, right? These clear holds.
Hmm.
Obviously, route setting trends are basically just fast fashion trends. I I I still remember when for a while it seems like everyone was trying to end up on the fail setting hashtag where they like screw a bunch of
Yeah.
disgusting jibs on top of each other, and then
Hmm.
suddenly it's this like weird,
Yep.
curmudgeony bit of a hold
Uh-huh.
that hurts to grab from
I
every
still
angle.
love that shit.
So I kind of wanted to see. You still love that shit.
Still love that shit. I just like love a little like, let's do something like
Little
gross
kebab, tasteful
today.
kebab.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because you work everywhere from the West Coast all the way out to the East, you've been
Hmm.
with a lot of crews and a lot of gyms. I kind of wanted to get your perspective on these fast fashion route setting trends. Like,
Hmm.
what are some of the common trends you're seeing in commercial setting in the last 2 years that have really surprised you? You talked about introducing comp movement to a commercial audience.
Hmm.
I think that is a trend, but maybe that does go a little further back than your
Hmm.
last episode. I'm not sure how far
Hmm.
back it goes.
I mean, I don't think comp movement in commercial gyms is necessarily a trend that will die out.
Hmm.
That is just like
A new norm?
a new norm, a part of
Yeah.
our culture of rock climbing,
Hmm.
is that there are people that are strictly gym climbers, strictly comp gym climbers, and that's a part of it. It's just as much as seeing speed routes in gyms and people practicing, that is also a part of it. Um, I know fast fashion trends. I mean, I think what I've been seeing, I think collectively the most, because I'm on Instagram, I follow so many route setters and try to get as many ideas as possible, is everybody seems to be shifting, I think because of Instagram as well, and more of this like everybody's viewing your stuff all the time, of more and more people thinking about aesthetics. And that seems like such a big thing to say. So like, oh yeah, aesthetics with route setting, that's always a part of it. But I'm noticing the focus for a very particular look, maybe like kind of compy, maybe a little minimalism, a macro here, just a very specific style that I'm starting to notice more and more commercial setters trying out, and expressing, and I think it's great. And I think aesthetic boulders are obviously beautiful and fun, and if the movement's there, I'm all for it. And I think with that, we're also starting to see that for the easier boulders too. And at least that's what I hope, is that the how much effort is going into the beauty of the rock climb is also going in for people at all levels to experience that beauty. And I noticed that at some gyms for sure. The accessibility thing is still following this like trend towards aesthetics. Um, so, I mean, I appreciate it as an Instagram content consumer of like, that's a beautiful boulder. I hope it climbs well. But yeah, I think that's just the thing that stands out the most, is this like blend between commercial and competition setting with like the comp aesthetic, but in a commercial space for commercial rock climbers who are gonna climb it like a rock climber rather than a comp climber. I think that's mostly what I've been seeing a lot. Yeah.
That also brings up a point of, same here. I love aesthetic climbs.
Mm-hmm.
I walk into the gym, I'm like, that one. That's the one I'm gonna go to
Yeah,
first because
totally.
that's the most beautiful boulder in the gym.
Uh-huh.
But I truly suspect, and one of my bosses pointed this out, that a lot of these aesthetic things you see on Instagram was the
Mm-hmm.
first boulder they put up, they took a picture of it, and then they filled in around it. So if you go
Mm-hmm.
to the gym that afternoon when the set is done, you're not seeing this blank wall with like perfectly lined up pattern of macros and
Mm-hmm.
jibs. It's a filled in commercial set because most
Mm-hmm.
gyms are,
You gotta be dense.
they exactly, they
Mm-hmm.
gotta be dense. They gotta keep the customer base, especially in a place like where I am, the Front Range. There's so many gyms to
Mm-hmm.
choose from. If
Yeah.
this gym only offers me 10 boulders and that one offers me 35, like which one do you think I'm gonna go to?
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, it's totally true. And I think what also maybe what's just been interesting for me is taking a picture of the boulder before running and then taking a picture of the boulder after for running.
Yes.
Of like what changes to the aesthetics had to happen to make the boulder work for the commercial gym. And obviously there are some gyms that totally work off a commercial style, or off a competition style, but I think it's been really interesting, even in, a week of competitions, my skeletons versus how it actually turns out. I always find that process very fascinating. Like, I want to see the before and after. I want to see if I can pinpoint, like, why those changes had to be made. Oh, that, like, pretty little matched jug actually has to just be, like, a huge fucking mega thing because
Yeah.
running and jumping to it just wasn't working in the style that it was, like, closed off in, even though it was pretty. Like, I think some of the best comp boulders are the ugliest ones on the wall. So,
I
um,
agree.
yeah.
I have a
So,
folder on my phone called Pretty Boulders,
uh-huh,
and it's stuff that I really like that is
uh-huh,
really aesthetic, but I
yeah,
know it has to change. Or like just
sure,
before someone changes it, I'm like, wait, let me take a photo,
yeah,
please. Boop.
totally.
Save it
Or
into
like,
my Pretty Boulder folder.
yeah, we all get our unicorns every once in a while where it's like totally works,
Exactly.
it's perfect, and now we
Uh-huh.
need to fill everything around it. Or for a comp, it's like, oh, I got super lucky. And then my other one that I thought was beautiful got fucking demolished because it didn't work in the
Mm-hmm.
round, or it was too
Yep.
similar of movement to something else, or we just needed something different, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Um, but I would love to see some more like before and after shots, I think, of these boulders of like what was your original intention and then what did the crew decide was the best for that day. Um, I think that would be really fun to see.
Yeah, I think it would also open conversations of why things got changed, like you said, like
Yeah.
why this initial iteration didn't fit the customer base, and that in itself can be route setting education.
Yeah.
It's just like just because it's content online doesn't mean like especially with this generation and the younger generation, they get a lot of their educational content online, and that could potentially be a step in
Totally.
educating newer setters on what works and what doesn't.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, I am coming up to kind of an end of the questions I'm
Hmm.
preparing for you, but I do have a closing question, which
Okay.
is, yeah, if you could leave a message to newer setters listening,
Mm,
imagine imagine me, Sierra,
I'm
2 years
cry.
ago. I am, I might have had the same haircut, but I had my that was before I turned into a Makita person. I used to be a Milwaukee drill setter.
Okay.
Um, what would you tell me 2 years ago? Something that you wish you would have heard 2 years ago. What would it be?
I, I think what I would tell you and what I would have told myself is you belong in this space. You just need to find the people that make you really understand that you belong and that remind you that you belong on a daily basis. Um, you are welcome here. We want you here. You grow this field. We do so much cool stuff with you as a route setter in this field, and I really hope you stay. And the way to stay is finding the support and finding those relationships. Your relationships are what matter in this industry because they're what keep you alive and keep you excited and passionate and feeling like you belong. So, yeah.
I love that. I think that's applicable to every setter out there who's
Hmm.
potentially considering quitting. Is maybe you just haven't found the right people yet.
Yeah, maybe
Maybe
you
you
need to
haven't found
find your
your people.
people. Yeah, find your people. Maybe, I mean, yeah, we never talk about that. Like,
Yeah,
the people are what make this industry. The people are what keep you around. The people are what can make you quit. And finding the right ones could change the trajectory of your career.
I love that. That's a beautiful closing thought. Thank you so much for sitting down with me today, Sierra.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I hope we get to enjoy more boulders out in Joe.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's good weather. It's really, really good. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. And that's it for today. Thank you for listening, sharing, and supporting another episode of the Impact Driver podcast. A huge thank you to our guests for joining us and sharing their time and insight, as well as to our sponsors for making these conversations possible. New episodes come out monthly, and you can find past conversations wherever you listen. Be sure to check out the show notes for relevant links and subscribe to CBJ at climbingbusinessjournal.com to never miss a new episode. If you'd like to nominate someone as a future guest, suggest a topic, or reach out with questions, we'd love to hear from you. You can contact me and our producers by emailing info@climbingbusinessjournal.com or by filling out the pitch form in our show notes. The Impact Driver podcast is a production of the Climbing Business Journal. I'm your host, Holly Chen. This episode was edited and produced by myself, Scott Rennick, Joe Robinson, and Megan Cheek, with theme music by Devin Dabney. Thanks again for tuning in.